Hi, this is Randy Randall of No Age and host of the podcast Hyphenate with Randy Randall. I want to welcome our newest sponsor of the show, DistroKid. DistroKid helps musicians get their music on all the major streaming platforms, and artists keep 100% of their royalties. Hyphenate listeners get 30% off at distrokid.com/VIP/hyphenate. Again, that's distrokid.com/VIP/HYPHENATE. Go get your music streaming everywhere now. What's happening? Thank you for listening to Hyphenate with me, Randy Randall, and my good friend Aaron Farley. How do you do, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
This is for today, July 15th. This is very rare that we get a live, if not slightly late, version of the Hyphenate halftime on. Apparently, we can thank, just being in our sunspots and being in your 40s is what I'm going to say.
Yes.
That's my problem.
Yes. There's a lot of things going on and a lot of things not going on.
I mean, we're officially like in the middle of summer with the kids' activities in the weekend just being outrageously packed full of stuff and having to wind down. And I just was like, yeah, we'll talk this weekend. And then this weekend came and I'm just like, I'm either sleeping or running after the kids and doing something crazy.
Well, I think when you have the kids that are your age and then you're also not working a 9-to-5 job, the weekend is just another day. It might as well be Tuesday.
It's just, the whole thing got away from it. Yeah, the kids are doing a fun acting camp. They're digging, but it's like
oh, that's cool.
It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing over here. Yeah. Just stuff. But yeah, did you go on a road trip? What were you doing?
Yes.
Where'd you guys go?
We drove to McCall, Idaho last week.
Where is that? Is that near Boise or
it's
Coeur d'Alene?
A couple hours north of Boise.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like an hour and a half north of Boise, and it's a beautiful lake and a small town in the middle of the mountains.
That's cool. Did you meet
I would say nowhere
from Spokane?
No, it's Michelle's parents have had a cabin up there for forever. So every couple years we drive up there.
That's great. How close to Spokane is it?
All the cousins get to hang out. I would say it's 7 hours from Spokane.
Oh, wow.
6 hours. Because you kind of have to go. I mean, if you were going there straight, it's not that crazy. But because you have to go over these, like all sorts of mountains and things, you kind of have to go down through. McCall is just east of Oregon. So you have to go down south and then over.
Wow.
But,
because there's a giant
so it takes a while
in between the two.
Yeah, there's a couple big passes, and then during the summer it's not that bad, but during the winter you have to drive all the way around.
What's that
to some safer passes?
That flat area, like coming up from like along the Snake River from Portland to Spokane. Then there's just kind of like it almost feels like a Mad Max sort of zone of like everything just gets real flat. Like you kind of reach the top of the Snake River, and then you're just like, oh shit, this is the Hills
It's just called the high. It's just the high desert.
Ooh.
So it's like you're up. I mean, it's not even that high, but it's like 3,000 feet. I mean, I think Spokane is 3,000 feet, 2,500, but it's pretty flat. I mean, there's a lot of hills, but it's not mountainy. It's not like LA. Well, I guess LA is like super flat and then huge mountains.
Yeah.
And there it's like flat and then some mountains, but mostly flat, and then some big hills.
Maybe it was just all the tiredness of a 2-day or 3-day drive. I forget what I did there. I think that was the third day of just right before getting there. It was like the last leg, but it just felt.
So
like
you were coming in from Portland, so you went like all the way east, like to Lewiston or something like that, and then went up, or Tri-Cities up. Something like that.
Yeah, Tri-Cities sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember getting gas and just kind of breathing for the last time and like, okay, here we go. And then it was just another elevation in snow and a giant moving truck. And just like, okay, let's see how this goes. It was like the last moment of kind of peace before then a big run up. But it also just felt so eerie, kind of spooky. Maybe, again,
it's different in the winter because it gets super windy there because there's nothing to stop the wind.
Yeah.
And it's very cold.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird because it is the desert. So um, you get areas where there's still like sand,
Yep.
like where
That's how
it's
this
still
felt.
like sand dunes and stuff,
But like you're in the middle of the
but not
mountains or
crazy
something.
sand dunes.
Yeah.
It's still like you still get a lot of grass and everything growing, but a lot of the soil is still sand. And I guess even do you ever go to Pullman, like Washington State?
I don't
Did you
think
guys
so.
ever play there?
No.
Pullman? Usually that's kind of the stop between like Seattle, Spokane, and then people go down to Pullman,
Okay.
and then they come back up to like Missoula or whatever. But in that area, which is all wheat fields, it's just like bumps and bumps of wheat fields. But supposedly that was all sand dunes. So
Whoa.
like that for I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of years ago or whatever, but so it looks like a desert, but it is all
They
grassland
planted it
now.
over.
But it still looks like it has sand dunes. And also, you could probably look this up on the internet, and I'm
This
completely
is the Pacific
totally
Northwest
wrong.
geographical
The
corner.
lore.
Yeah.
This is the lore that I hear, and then when you get there, they're like, "Those aren't sand dunes, dummy.
What are you talking about?
That's glacier.
Oh
That's
my
from a
God.
glacier."
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, Danny Perez was last week's
Yeah,
guest. Do you know Danny?
was awesome.
Did you ever meet him?
No,
He is such a character. I mean, and I say that in a good way. I love Danny. I just saw
yeah,
him over the weekend. But yeah, he did this amazing animal collective film called Odd Sack that came
yeah. I
out
watched
a
some of it.
decade ago. Yeah, very trippy. But it came out at
Yeah,
such a great time. It was really, I think, a great thing for him, obviously, and for the band as well. This sort of like pushing the edges of that sort of creative, audio visual sort of audio album kind of idea.
yeah.
And when when they were doing it at their peak.
One, and it really made me think that that album probably, or I mean that the video album probably visually pushed forward a lot of what ended up happening for the next 10 years. I mean, because
Totally.
even seeing all those visuals, and I'm like, oh, that's where all that stuff came from. I mean, because Animal is such a respected band and such a, like, I feel like a band that a lot of people looked at was like, whoa, this is like somehow they mixed that poppy and totally psychedelic craziness perfectly to be able to like trick normal people into listening to psychedelic weird music.
Yeah,
And be like, yeah, but it's so catchy though. Well, I don't know what all those sounds are, but I could listen to this forever.
Yeah, they're such a funny band. I mean, they kind of came, from a similar sort of like DIY noise underground sort of spaces like Black Dice, and I remember seeing them open for Black Dice, on tour and stuff, and it's like, oh, cool, yeah, this is kind of folky, it's kind of fun, sort of felt like a thing, and then yeah, it was within within a couple of years, it was just like, oh shit, Animal Collective is playing the Hollywood Bowl,
Yeah.
they just sort of hit the zeitgeist in one of those big sort of creative cultural pockets. It just went so big.
And like hitting those moments of like being able to ride that like catchiness without playing it down.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's I mean, it obviously must be a very difficult thing to do because there aren't that many bands that do that well. It's either like, well, we have to sacrifice our sound to sound like Katy Perry or whatever, or we're not making anything catchy and we're just going for like personal, like whatever feels good. Yeah. And I feel like they because I listened to that like that first Panda Bear album.
Oh gosh,
lot.
Yeah, I think that
it's
doubled down with everything too. That was such a huge hit on top of the back of all those other big records they were already doing.
Yeah, and it was like it's one of those albums you just listen to and like, I mean, I think like MGMT is a little bit like that too. Like they could put out some really weird, crazy stuff, but then still have some kind of pop hook like buried in there enough that you could just listen to it and it's a little bit timeless. It's like it's pulled from so many different places that even listening to those now, it doesn't seem like, oh yeah, here's exactly when this record was made. It's like, oh, this could have been made.
It's kind of timeless.
Yesterday or 30 years ago or 20 years ago.
I saw Danny do visuals for Panda Bear on that tour for that first record, and I think he had these giant projectors, but instead of like pointing at the band, they were like pointed back at the audience, so this became this like laser light show, like shooting off the stage.
That's amazing. I love that. I love it.
Yeah, that was in Pomona. Yeah, but yeah, Danny's been with all of those guys, Black Dice and Animal Collective, specifically for years, and so he was always part of the touring sort of fabric, the touring community of those years, and seeing him at big fests and big places, and like, oh shit, what do you got going down? Just like just wait for tonight, and then just like just explosions of sound or of color and blood and like what was that? It's something biologic kind of looking, but also just kind of like melted things.
Yeah. I mean, so cool. I think it's so cool because his stuff is so much of a collage. Mm-hmm. But when you see how long he's been doing it, you're like, oh yeah, this is what everybody, like, this is where visuals went. Like he had that I don't know whether he timed it right or so many people were looking at the visuals of that band and his visuals and going, oh, this is where it needs to go. I feel like that's probably a little bit of both.
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting when it's such a young person's, because I know the feeling too of like going like, oh, I had this one thing that everybody likes. And then I'm like, I'm going to go to LA and become a director. and when you were like, yeah, how many bottles of water did you get handed? And I'm like, oh yeah, I've been there too. I'm like, yeah, but you guys, look at this. Look how many people liked this. I'm like, yeah, it's great. I mean, I see, I mean, you really have a thing there, don't you? This is like it's like a thing. I remember actually, this didn't even have to do necessarily with us specifically, but when Jeremy and I had our radio show like years ago, and it was online, and nobody had online radio shows, and the LA Weekly had like their yearly thing.
And this was LA Weekly was a big deal. This was like a big big publication.
Yeah, and they had like
for local stuff.
Yeah, the best radio show, the best band, the best whatever. And somehow we got in with like Steve Jones radio show on one of whatever that was, 100.3
professional studio,
oh yeah,
guitarist from the Sex Pistols. It's
and all of these radio shows, and then we got thrown in there, and we're like, God, we must know someone at the LA Weekly, right?
He's a friend,
but so we had all this like, oh my God, this is great, we're gonna do this thing, and then a friend of ours who loved coming into the show, who I won't name, who had an agent. And he was like looking for different projects. He went to his agent and was like, I want to do a show like these guys. Like, this is the next thing I want to do. And their agent listened to our show the next week. And he just went to him like,
yeah, I'm not letting you do that.
Yeah, what is it that they do? I don't know.
You're like Seinfeld. You're like a show about nothing.
Yeah. So you want to drink on the microphone with friends and say stupid stuff and don't play any music? Like, and he's like, no, well, yeah. And he's like, I mean, I don't know if I can help you with that. But him telling us that story, like right at this, like, we're doing this amazing thing. And he's like, yeah, it's not like, this doesn't really translate to more than like our friends, and then a couple people who are like our friends in other places.
But I feel like that's so much of what the world is, though. Now, that was totally. That was just ahead of the curve in that kind of way. The hyper nicheification of just all media. It's like, so I'd say 99% of like YouTube channels are, or
totally
your social media feeds, your TikTok. Folks, I think there's a certain kind of flattening of personality and content to a degree, but in one way or another, you're just making stuff for your friends and with your friends, and
totally. Well, and I think he said it perfectly, or you guys were having the conversation back and forth, that when he was like, so I decided to make something that was a little more accessible, and then got a little bit of work from that, and then I decided like, okay, screw it, I'm going to make something really accessible, and then that got him kind of some work, but he was like, felt like he wasn't happy, like, is this wait, is this what I have to do? Like, if I want to do this thing that I've been wanting to do my whole life, and then I get there and go, oh, but I don't get to do the thing that I want to do. I just have to do the thing that everyone else wants. And hearing that, like hearing him kind of like go back and forth with that, I think is that struggle of making money. And I think you put it perfectly too, of saying like there's also that chance where you just have a couple years where you actually get to make money off of the thing that you love to do. And then that, those opportunities go away or whatever, but you still do the thing that you want to do. And as long as you have that, as long as you can like be happy just doing the thing that you want to do, then it's not as bad. Whereas if you're like trying to do this thing that you don't want to do, and then that's how you make money, it actually can be much worse if you get stuck in that pile where you're like, wait, the only thing that I know that I do now that makes money is a thing that I don't want to do.
Right. Yeah.
This is a struggle.
It sounds so abstract in that kind of way. But the reality is, if you're following a dream and then they say you could you could hold the rope in front of your dream, but but you can never actually do the dream part of it. Like you could wash the windows. You're like,
Yeah.
I can watch the windows anywhere. I can hold a rope anywhere. Like, why am I like, but the dream's right there. Yeah, but you can't do that. You can't go inside. That's the dream factory. No one, only like 10 people get put in there a year.
Yeah.
You get to do exactly what you want to do with no, with no one second guessing you and crawling up your ass and telling all the time. So you've reached, that's the kind of the end of the Wizard of Oz. You're like, but you don't even pull the curtain back. Like there's nothing here. There's no, and even the people that you think are doing it, they're not really doing it. They're all just compromising and shilling and shit. You know what I mean? I think if we were to really dig into whatever those handful of auteurs who were ever selected and had a patron somewhere in the industry that allowed them, it's really, you can count them on your fist. It's like Quentin Tarantino, David Fincher, who else is operating really today in that auteur world? Maybe Spike Jonze, but I know he hasn't gotten everything made that he's wanted to.
No,
he's had a lot of pushback, and but then you go back through history, or Steven Spielberg. There's there's a handful of people that can really that is always the goal of at least in that Hollywood world to do that kind of stuff. But everybody else has to work.
I say dream small.
Yes.
And work hard. Honestly.
Right?
It's like if all you want to do is like to make the album that you want to make and that's your dream.
Right. Yeah.
Then like you're good, man. And then maybe it'll be better and then you're like, wow, better than I ever dreamed. But
keep those dreams. Yeah. Well,
it doesn't
there's a lot
it
of
doesn't
ways
necessarily make
art,
and I know, we both know a lot of people who have gone far and beyond past, whatever I've ever dreamed of. Like, I just wanted, I didn't even know that I wanted like the cover of a magazine. Like, oh my God, if I get the cover of a magazine, that's like, you made it, right? Like you see your photo right on the front when you walk by the magazine stand. And then that happened a couple times and you go, oh, there's 750 magazines here. Right?
I'm just on one of
I'm on one.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I want to be on that one. Okay, I want to be on that one. And then maybe you get on that one and then you're like, it's not any different than the other one. And it goes away after a month. Wait, now I have to try to, oh God. This could go on. Wait, you're telling me this could go on forever? It's like wanting to, now I want to do this. And then, but there are also some people that are just built for that. And that like drive is what and for me, I realized very quickly, not very quickly, but I'm like, I don't think I'm actually driven by the things I think I'm supposed to be driven by. I don't think I don't think that's actually my driving factor. I think I like to do fun projects with friends and then figure out some other way to pay the bills. Honestly, the happiest times for me have been those moments where I've done something that makes no money that I still talk about 10 years afterwards.
Oh God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's this thing too, just the price, I just relate back to myself with like touring and these kinds of things. And, it's the world changes and things change and it gets expensive. It all, the amount of money that a band has to bring in today daily to survive on the road is so different than what it was 10 years ago, just the cost of flights, cost of gas, cost of living. and and then as a band, you're paying for everybody that's on the road with you, and it's expensive.
Yeah.
Then you gotta,
well, I mean,
you gotta charge more for tickets. You gotta charge more for t-shirts. You gotta and you're doing all that
It's
stuff,
crazy.
and you're still losing money. And you just go, oh, okay. It's not a profitable thing, but it was fun. Maybe ? It's like
there were moments.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's I think that's what's been great about your podcast is listening to, because I think because of our age, you're interviewing people in this kind of perfect age range of like, it would be different if you were interviewing all like 20-year-olds. The whole vibe would be different. And if you were interviewing like 60 and 70-year-olds, the whole vibe would be different. But it is kind of this sweet spot of like 30 to 50-year-olds that are in this weird moment in time that we're in, of like, okay, I would say it's more of a creative moment than, like, in general, than we've ever been in, like, where people know, like, normal people know about art, and they know about artists, and they know more weird musicians and not just what's on the radio. Everybody has like some weird person they found on Spotify or YouTube, and you have creators, like, that's like in a job description, is like a creative,
Yeah.
and a creator and a YouTuber, and people making content, and all of these things. But it's also, I don't think it's ever been harder to have a creative position that's stable for people. Like, there's a lot of, like, I have 10 different creative pursuits, and they're all bringing in an eighth of what I need. Right. So I'm only bringing in like 90% of what I need, but I have 10 different things. So it is, and it's a weird thing of like, this is that age of like, well, I mean, I went to get my teaching certificate because I was like, yeah, I don't think I can do that part anymore, like that hustle. And I think it'll work out much better for me. But then a lot of people are like, no, man, I'm just barreling through. I don't care. I'm like, I'm on the train ride, and this is like, it's going this way, and it's great. So it's great to hear everybody's different, like, unique stories about what they've done, what kind of jobs they took in between, how often, like, yeah, we were touring for 4 years and then it went away, and now we're kind of back, or now I'm in a different band, or I think it's cool. I mean, I think it's like a very unique, or I mean, maybe it shows you that it's not as unique, as you think when you talk to everybody, and everybody's going through the same kind of struggles of trying to figure out where this whole thing.
Well, it definitely feels like a transition time. I think that's a good way of putting it. It's hard to know what era you're living in, or hard to know how to define the space that you're in. But I think that's a nice kind of larger macro view of it all, because it doesn't. I can't imagine whatever culturally and creatively, whatever the financial models are that are set up right now, whether that's streaming or subscription based kinds of things and all these platforms, like, it doesn't seem sustainable. So whatever's happening is going to be for this short time. And I think we're all probably going to look back and go, oh yeah, remember when everybody had their own streaming thing and it was a thing, and it might be, I don't know if it's going to be better, whatever's coming next, but whatever is here now, I don't think is the long run answer. And so I guess in that sense too, there's some sort of take heart in that, of like, yeah, this is probably cultural growing pains on so many levels of, creatively and just financially and whatever economically, whatever position people at our age are in, it's a different time to sort of weather those transitions, but it's probably something akin to those, like MTV stuff where like, oh, and it's a music videos and now a thing, like the rise of YouTube and sort of the democratization of this sort of cultural platform of YouTube and the Spotify, the DSP, digital streaming platforms. Anybody can get their songs up there and get them out there in a way that's, I think is constantly heralded as a good thing, and then you're shoved back to earth and realize like, oh, but just because you have a video on YouTube doesn't mean you're going to get a million views of it, or you're just gonna have a song.
And even if you do get a million views, it's gonna be like,
what would you do with that? Yeah,
you gotta make another one. What does that even mean?
Yeah.
Well, and it is interesting because even with the Spotify thing, technically, yes, if you're getting like if you're selling CDs, you're getting a one-time payment at the beginning, and then that person has that CD forever. And technically in Spotify or Apple Music, whatever, you're getting a penny off of every time this person plays that CD or whatever. Not even a penny. Sorry, a tenth of a penny,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Oh God, yeah.
Maybe not even that.
0.008, I think, is what the artist gets per play. So I don't know what that is. That's less than
8,000th. Is that at the 8,000?
0.00800th, maybe.
So you have to get 100 plays to get 1 penny. Is that what it is?
Something like that. Yeah.
I didn't do math. I didn't do math for middle school.
But it's done like this for a reason.
It's
exactly. A very small amount. Yeah.
But what happens is that because of streaming, it's like, you can get everything out there. But now you don't get any upfront money, and nothing is like, you don't get to set the price anymore, right? Like with a CD or an album and you could still do that with and people still do albums,
your Bandcamp or
vinyl,
your download or
Bandcamp and stuff, and you can do special things that you don't put up. That totally, but that takes away that money from you, or that power that you have as a band to go, okay, we're going to make these things, we're going to do this specific artwork, and we know that every one of these we sell, we're going to make $8. And it's like a very specific amount that, like, okay, if we have to sell 20 of these a night to pay for gas till the next place or whatever. And those kind of like that control over your monetary control kind of goes away from the music part. And you still t-shirts, you can't digitize your t-shirts.
Yeah, you can try though. I think we should start a new trend. Let's see if this would catch on. Of like where you're at a show, it's preferably a local band, somebody who's just in town. You don't know who they are. You heard something, your friend got you to go. You don't know what's going on. But you got a decent job. You're paying your bills. You got a little bit of savings. What if you just walk up to the band after and just give them $20?
Yeah.
Just because you heard the band play. You're like, I paid to get in here. I know. I bought a beer. I bought this. You know what I mean? But the band, chances are if somebody's walking around with a guitar after 8:00 at night, they could use $20.
Yeah.
Just totally. In general, whatever it is.
Yeah.
If you have a musical instrument in your hand and it's after 8:00, you're hurting. Things are not going well. This was not the plan. You're trying, but you're constantly on that bridge of like, shit. What am I supposed to do? But if we just normalize it, just give a musician $20. Just, I don't know. Think of a fun name for it. I don't know what the catchy
even
hashtag, I don't know, something.
Even just one drink's worth. Like, hey, you know what? I'm going to get one less drink. But $12.
But the
$12 to the band.
Yeah, buying a musician a beer.
Take that drink money.
Yeah, give them the money. Yeah, they'd rather have guarantee you, if you asked any musician if they'd rather have a beer or the $10 for the cost of it, they would take the $10.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a funny time, but I like that idea though. I definitely, you never know what the transition is going to look like or where you go from one place to the next. But it for all the revolutions and for the AI and the fear and the apocalypse and the political strife and everything else that's going on, they're definitely it's gonna keep evolving. You know what I mean? Maybe not always for the best, but it's gonna change. It has to keep changing. Because paying bands, less than a penny per song play just doesn't make any sense.
You think that doesn't make sense, Randy?
Well, if you were doing that on top of selling them, you know what I mean?
Totally.
If it was the radio, if for some reason the radio worked, you'd play the songs for free on the radio, and somehow that just got you excited because it wasn't on demand. This is the on demand life of it all. And I'm guilty. I have Spotify. I pull songs up. I mean, 99% of our songs all have to do with farts and or one specific band. It's like my two kids have their own playlists. The most annoying songs in the world, I think, is what it's called for one, and then the other one is this band. And so it's hilarious. It's like, okay, well, I guess I could have bought a CD of bad songs, but it's not even
doesn't make it as easy.
Yeah.
I know. It's a weird one. It's a weird time to be doing all these things because it also I think I think where a lot of these problems lie, and this is even in advertising and everything else, is that the second that you could get real, actual, specific numbers from actual listens or actual views that happen in real time, it drives money, like people that are bean counters, like money,
Oh,
like
right,
people that
right.
can think of the math of situations. It drives them so insane that everything becomes about like one or two more views because they can calculate it with a number. And this happens in advertising now too, right? Because
Yeah.
you can put things up on your Facebook platform or whatever, and they can see an exact number. Whereas before, you put a Coca-Cola ad on TV and you go, well, a lot of people watching Seinfeld, so a lot of people seeing our Coke commercial,
Sure.
and it become, but it's more of an idea of things. So people are more able to like, let's try some things out. Let's experiment more. Let's put out weirder music. Let's put out, because you can kind of see how many albums someone has sold back then, but there was still a lot of like stacks of records ending up going places or people, it's like, whereas now you just get these very specific digital numbers of exactly how many people bought them, where they bought them, what area they're in, what their demographic is, what they're, it's like all of those things. And I think that just drives businesses so crazy that,
Chasing the
and
number of it
I mean, I
versus
guess
some
you
kind of
guys,
like bigger picture of it all. Yeah.
or like, yeah, making art or making putting out a good story or
Right.
trying something new or, where that's a lot more. I don't know if it's more difficult now, but that stuff just like lives on YouTube or lives on some other place now, which also maybe that's better. I don't know. Maybe YouTube Shorts are better than Marvel, like whatever Ant-Man 3 or whatever. I mean, I gotta say, like, I probably watch Ant-Man 3 and halfway through would be like, God, I wish I was on Instagram right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Well,
think a lot of the times it's pretty interesting. My algorithm's real good right now.
you got a hot streak. It's all
Oh
happening. It's
man,
all popping
I,
off.
I all I got is like I got like kids on really crappy motorcycles trying to jump stuff. I've got people since 4th of July. I've got a lot of fireworks content.
Oh my God.
I got a lot of people
Yeah.
blowing things up that shouldn't be getting blown up. I get a lot of animal like tons of animal videos.
Yeah.
I pushed real hard to get the cute animal video algorithm. A lot of like gorillas and their babies
Of
right
course.
now.
Well, yeah,
A
that's
lot, a lot of that. I
dominating.
don't
It's
know
hot.
where that came from.
It's so hot
I
right
got
now. It's just so
yeah,
hot.
and I know. And our friend Nicole sent me a great video of 3 ducks knocking on someone's door, and they open the door, and the ducks just fly into their house. I mean, it's like how can you can't
That
buy
has
that stuff,
that has
right?
to be
It's
fake,
perfect.
right? I mean, those
I
ducks
mean,
have hot soldering irons like right off
Randy,
camera.
we
Like
don't
they
need to
just go.
know. We don't need to know
Those ducks
what's
are all
real and what's
eaten
not real.
seconds after that was over with.
Yeah,
They were all cooked.
they've been trained to get 1 million views
Well,
minimum,
well,
million views on each platform minimum.
the one that's more psycho with that, there was like the first while I was seeing this bunny and like puppy that were like asleep. They'd like fall
Oh
asleep on
yeah,
each other. I'm like,
yeah.
oh wait, these things are totally drugged. Those things are totally on some kind of like knockout thing.
Oh, it has to
And
be.
then they're arranged in some type of who was the woman that would arrange the babies?
Oh god,
With like
yeah.
their like flower
I know who
pots
you're
on their heads.
Yeah,
What was
and
yes.
then she'd like digitally put them in flowers and stuff.
Yes. Yeah. What was
Yeah,
that woman's called?
totally.
Where they're just
I
like,
don't know.
this has
Did
to
she
be
drug
that.
those babies? Is
I
that
hope
what
they
you're talking
didn't.
about?
Yeah, I hope maybe she drugged the babies. What was that called? I want to say it's like Lisa Frank, but Lisa Frank was the folders with the dolphins and Geddes. Ann Geddes
Oh,
was
is
the
that
lady,
who
the
it
photo,
was?
the
Oh
lady,
my
the
god.
baby pictures.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
Ann
Made
Geddes
millions.
core coming out? Is that a trend? Are people wearing Ann
Maybe
Geddes? Is that
could be
the new art
because I've seen a
pastiche?
monkey. I've seen a little miniature monkey hugging a baby duck as
Of
well,
course,
like
yeah,
sleeping in
yeah.
a blanket,
Sleeping, quote unquote,
quote
big air
unquote.
quotes, sleeping
Yeah.
animals next to each other.
This also
It's a
could be
dark
AI
world.
though. I mean,
Oh,
that I
sure,
feel
of
like that
course.
would I feel like that would be a
It'd be more
really easy
humane.
thing.
Yeah.
It'd be a really easy thing for AI to fake is to be like something not moving very much, monkey sleeping, holding a tiny duck like the
Oh my
like
God.
Mary holding the baby Jesus.
Oh God. Yeah. What have we seen? There's one that's like almost like a product designer AI Instagram feed that the kids really like. It's like these giant oversized like gorilla chairs, like chairs in the shape of beanbag chairs in the shape of giant gorillas. And they'll
Oh,
usually do
okay.
like 10 examples of AI, like prompts,
Yeah.
outputs. I mean, a little animation on it. I think he's also gotten into AI music to put over it, but it'll be like Nike, like Air Jordan toilet. And then you get these like toilets in the shape of Air Jordans.
I know I've said this before, but AI is just what, like, the way AI works has to be the same thing as the way our dreams work.
Right?
Because they look so much like when
This
you're trying to describe
liminal.
a dream to somebody. Like, did you see the Tour de France AI thing that came out?
What was that?
So someone is like, this is exactly what the Tour de France looks like to AI. And it's a bunch of people riding bikes, right? It looks like the Tour de France for like a couple seconds. And then the people are like weaving in and out of each other and like becoming each other and then crashing through. It looks like a wave of people crashing through, but other people are still riding. But you can still tell it's Tour de France. But then it's just all this like psychedelic weirdness coming through at the same time. And it's just like, yeah, this is what, when you're trying to go like, so there was the Tour de France, but then it was like not the Tour de France, like, right? Like everybody didn't quite have a face.
I was running, but I couldn't go anywhere. And it's just like I was stuck there.
And everybody
10 fingers on one hand.
Exactly. Everyone's hands looked weird, but I could tell I was there, but then I was flying over the top of it.
Yeah.
And then the ground started going in, and I was just a face, and I was a face riding a bicycle.
I think this is.
And you're like, yeah,
Danny
sure,
Perez
buddy.
Was really behind the AI.
Exactly.
Somehow that Danny should sue just the collective AI consciousness of psychedelic, biological.
Oh my God,
psychedelia.
It is true.
It's
everything.
It's so nuts. It's all
everything is
stuff.
Ruined, and amazing at the same time.
That'd be the good Aaron Farley op-ed piece. Right there. So basically, it's ruined, but it's pretty cool. Still working.
It's great, man.
Still good. If you look, it's just all how you look at it. It could either be crushing the creative, independent spirit, or just it's like a computer on drugs. It's what you make of it, man.
It's amazing that people are like smart enough to try to kill us with AI. I mean, it's unbelievably beautiful.
I mean,
to create the machine. I mean, this is what movies have been about since we've been making movies, right?
Of course.
But someday we're gonna make a thing that's smart enough that goes, we don't need these people anymore.
Yeah.
And everyone's kind of like, well, I mean, maybe. What else are you gonna do? I mean, we all got to pay our rent somehow.
But isn't that really just the metaphor of reproduction in any kind of way, shape, or form? Since like going back to the Greeks, there's some kind of thing of just like whatever you make will be the thing that kills you. Creation is death. Like the second you make something new is the second you start dying and it starts taking over and you're
killing
needed.
The old thing.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Yeah. I think there's something about that, and then there's something very whatever dark techno noir about it as well. That's for good measure.
It's pretty wild. It's pretty wild too that if it was just like, yep, there's going to be no new babies, that life, like human life, would go on for probably about 50, 60 more years, and that's it. It's weird. Yeah. It's weird that we turn over that quickly.
Right?
No,
of course. It's like skin cells. We're just get rid of them. You get rid of.
Yeah, it's really not that fun. Yeah.
Well, that's a great film.
Most of us die, the other ones just have no support, so they have to die early. It's dark. It's heavy.
Yeah, there's been sci-fi on the subject, but Alfonso Cuarón, I think was the director. I could be wrong, but Children of Men, the Clive Owen film from the early aughts. Was about that. No new people had been born for a few decades, and then the one lady's pregnant. And he has to protect her at all cost. And there's that really cool shot where the single camera shot where the camera goes inside the car and outside of the car, and every which way around.
But then that's just one baby.
Well,
what are you gonna do with one baby? You know what I mean?
Well, it could
So
be
it's going to be a bunch of dead people and one
the
baby.
change. Well, it could be the next one.
I mean, maybe. Then that baby. Oh, is this
but you
like
study
this,
her?
like an
Like,
Adam
why
and
did
Eve
she?
thing?
Yeah, why did she? Where did she come from? Yeah, the next.
Right, they got to start over again. I guess you have some time. You have like 60 years, 50 years. Figure it out.
Speaking of dreams, am I the only one who, going to school in the 80s and 90s, like, would often think like, okay, if the world ended here and I had to repopulate the earth, is this like a weird adolescent male, like just string of thought, or is this only me? Like, if I had to repopulate the earth with just everybody in this elevator or just this building, like, I'd kill that guy. I would have sex with her. I would do this. Was this just some kind of weird OCD calming thought experiment or catastrophizing brain fart I would have constantly from probably the age, I don't know, 10 till about 25. Just my testosterone was just kind
every
of
group,
just
every group of six people.
Yeah, whenever there was more than 2 people in a room, like,
oh my God,
how would we call
it's making me rethink all the times I was in a group of 6 people with you. I was like,
okay, maybe this is sounding.
I wonder which one I was.
Maybe well, this is sounding more unique to me than not quite a shared thing. But write us at Hyphenate Halftime if you ever dreamed about killing people and repopulating the earth with other people.
With only your sit.
I just think I saw too much sci-fi as a kid or something. I don't know. My brain is.
I mean, I've definitely been in situations where I've gone, if we all were the last people on Earth, and we had to go forward, would it be worth it? And usually it's just no.
That's true.
I think usually it's like I could try to keep myself afloat, but would I really
enjoy
want
this
to
experience?
Yeah, I could just be like, you know what? Hopefully, I'm somewhere where there's some food growing on trees, and I can figure some stuff out to eat and hang out. I could probably hang out and think just the rest of my life.
Yeah.
But do I need to add more people and stress to it? I don't think. I think at that point I'd be like, I don't know.
It's not worth it,
guys. You know what? It's been
just go ahead.
It's been fun.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and just sign off now. I'm good.
Yeah,
have
more
fun
people just means less mangoes for me.
Yeah. That's the experiment. The other thing I would do is, you remember those like ceiling tiles that had the little perforations, like little holes in all of them? I remember staring up at those and just trying to figure out what the pattern was. Like, there has to be a pattern. Like, they couldn't have made these each individually. Like, these has to just be one big, like, hole punch pattern. They do, but then when they install them, they could put them, there's just 2 options. There goes forwards or backwards. So it's trying to understand, like, where the edges are and, like, figure out, like, what the patterns are. That was another big chunk of time.
I have also done that.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay. At least I'm not
being bored in PE.
Yeah.
In high school.
Just trying to find things, staring up.
Yeah, just looking up there and just feeling like, there's no way. I had the same thought. There's no way that, because if these were all random, how would they it would be way harder to make them random than to make like 4 different ones and then put them in a grid.
Exactly. But they would appear as a random field.
Yeah, but how do you get the job to design the holes in that? Like, that's your job. Is that like a creative director at the tile factory? Is it just like a guy it's like, hey Joe,
there's a machinist
Joe,
out
just
there,
put a bunch of pins. Just put a bunch of pins in every hour. Change where the pins are. No one will ever know.
Yeah, it's like, all right, spin the wheel, pins. Okay, now we're going this way.
Or did they do them in a pattern once and it drove people so crazy that they stopped buying their product, and so they had to randomize them because people just kept staring at the pattern.
I see it. Why is that one? There's only one flipped the wrong way. All the rest of them should be going this way with the L on the bracket in the corner there. You should have a 3-1, the cluster there, but the one, he didn't do it right.
Yeah.
No.
Get me out of here.
Drop down tile ceilings. I don't see them as much. Maybe I'm just in less. I may have less buildings or less schools or something. But maybe was there something bad about those, or that just became
asbestos? Maybe.
Is that
probably
what those
asbestos.
Were?
Yeah, probably.
I know you definitely don't do everything residential.
Everything comes back to lead and asbestos. I feel like.
I think it was definitely a style thing. I think it just went out of style. Like people just like businesses. You're not going to go into a coffee shop or a donut shop. Even maybe a donut shop, you'd find them out there.
We had drop down ceilings in our basement as a kid because my dad worked for an electrical contractor, and they had a bunch of extra ceiling stuff.
Tiles.
He got it all for free, so they did like
he just hide all the plumbing, hide all the electrical under that.
Yeah, and instead of doing the ceilings because before that it was just like the wooden beams from upstairs. It was like an unfinished basement. He just did the drop down, and then I remember the amount of times that we like smashed those, like,
hit a
jumped
ball
up and
into it, threw a football
hit
into
them.
it.
Oh my God, just ruined. Just problems.
They're easily
Just had all
broken.
sorts
Yeah,
of kids have all sorts of do so many dumb things.
that
I
aluminum
have to
framing
say,
is so
yeah,
easy to break too.
even when we were in high school, I played JV tennis for one semester
Nice.
or 1 year, and never played tennis really before. And then since we were JV, the courts would get taken over by the varsity, so we'd have to practice hitting against the wall in the gym, which became boring. And so after a while, when the tennis teacher would go away, we would try to see how hard we could hit the balls into the ceiling to see if we could get the ceiling tiles to fall off. And I actually
Classic.
think about that often.
Yeah.
Because never once we thought we would do that, and then every once in a while you'd get like a tile to fall off, and then you have to go grab it and sweep it up and throw it in the trash can before
they found
the
it.
guy would
So
come
now there's
back.
just missing tiles in the ceiling.
But there were some missing tiles already.
Okay.
So maybe, but I was trying to think. I think about this all the time when I think about, and I think maybe it's because I started going back to school last year and was in school with a bunch of middle schoolers. And it always reminds me of, like, I was like, yeah, that's when I was a sophomore. And we were doing these things that were so stupid and thinking, like, there's no way how could they even catch us?
How could they know? How would they
Right?
possibly
And
know?
there's dust all over the gym. And we're like,
they're never going to find
pieces
out.
of tile. There's pieces of tile in the trash can in the gym.
It wasn't you.
I do feel like we got yelled at, and like, maybe, I don't know.
How
But
did
I
they
think
know?
about that often, to think about, like, what are these kids thinking? And then go, oh yeah,
They're not.
just
thinking
remember
anything.
the tiles hitting the tiles with the tennis ball.
I think that's a great example of that prefrontal cortex they talk about,
Totally.
like not maturing in especially in males
100%.
until 25 years old. That the lack of consequence, or like that there's a reaction to whatever it is your actions are. Just having the inability to really just have any concern for that at all.
Yeah.
Is really it's
No
a great
thought
example of
of
that. Yeah, like I just want to
like
do
they're
it.
really
But what about everything else that's going to happen after that? Like, what do you have? It doesn't matter. I'm going to do it. I'm going to hit that ball.
Yeah.
I'm just going to hit that ball.
Maybe the prefrontal cortex actually is what creates a future in your head. Like like once that's created, you're like, oh, there's actually things that are going to happen
Yes.
in the future for me.
Yes.
And that I'm actually going to be a person later on in life that grows into another person. But before that, nothing would get done when you're a kid, because if you're worried about being an older person your whole life, you wouldn't do any of those dumb things that makes you like creative and gives you good stories to tell.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, my 10-year-old asked why do they send why do they send kids, or what was it? It was like how old do you have to be to join the military? I was like, 18. It's like, what? Like, is that because they're easier to boss around when they're younger? Or like, why are people like, how old are people in the military or something like that? I was like, well, it's usually for 4 years, and it usually, most people just go in when they're 18. And it's like, is that because they're easier to boss around? And I was like, why do they do it then? Why don't they do it like in their 50s? Why don't people join the military in their 50s? And I was like, yeah, that's because they're easier to boss. Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. Yes, you're correct.
Yes.
People don't like join the military later in life. They usually join with very young, and they have hard jobs to do
when they need to be bossed around a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny.
And maybe
that's really smart.
That prefrontal cortex isn't really quite there yet either. You haven't really figured out, like, is this the best way to preserve my future of my self? Does my self live long, like doing this? Like, I don't know. That doesn't exist anymore.
What self are you talking about?
Yeah, self doesn't really exist at that age. Kind of does, for only a few consequences of like pleasure and avoidance of pain. That's about the only two things the self is good for at that age.
And I would wonder if, because there are always those kids that are really responsible all the way through high school and are always thinking about college and thinking about the future and jobs. And I would wonder if they've ever done studies on those kids to see if they already have like a prefrontal cortex is there.
There's activity happening there.
That's been there since they were 10.
Yeah. They're an anomaly. There's some kind of genetic.
It's like the nerd coefficient. Like, how nerdy are you? Oh, well, that means you have more of a prefrontal cortex.
There must be some relationship to the hormones as well. Like, okay, well, these hormones have already started to decline, therefore allowing the brain to, mature past a certain level.
Right.
Well, if with the level of hormones over a certain degree, you're just never gonna like mature.
Yeah.
Because your brain is physically incapable of maturing with that much hormone going through your body.
It's true.
Yeah.
Your brain is trying. Trust me.
It wants to know. It wants to know things.
It's doing the best it can, and it's like, this is you know what? I'm just going to try to keep you alive as much as possible.
The petri dish that is your body is just fighting everything against good self-preservation in that brain of yours. Like, come on, guys, we can do it. Like, fuck you, brain.
Yeah.
Go take this.
Yeah.
Ow. Okay.
Yeah. Don't jump off that. Don't jump off that. Don't jump off that.
Whee!
All right. I'm going to try to use all your muscles to save you.
I think we need a doctor.
Yeah.
That was a lot of what my brain said, like, that wasn't a good idea. You know, that moment of fucking up, like doing something bad, like getting hurt. And then there's like that breath of like, has this happened yet? You know?
Yeah.
It's like when time slows down, that moment, like, no, there's no pain yet. You're kind of waiting, you're looking for blood or for if something happened, and then the pain hits. There's always like that one little moment that just goes by so fast. But for a minute, you're like, I'm fine. You're like, oh fuck, no, I'm not fine. And then just pain just explodes everywhere.
Yeah. You look down at your arm and you're like, I think it's going to be crooked. And then you look down and you go, yep. It's crooked.
But that's like that Wile E. Coyote moment, you know, where you're still in the air. It's not until you look down and realize you're not on solid ground.
Yeah.
Anymore. Then you fall. I feel like there's a correlation of that in your brain of like, this should be hurting a lot more right now. How am I doing? Let's look at it. Oh God, it's bad.
Yeah. You're like, it's actually bad because it's not hurting. This means that it's going to be much worse than I think it is. So.
Yeah. I still do it now to this day. Like I'll think it was like, did I just get a paper cut? And I'm looking and I'm like, no. Oh, okay, cool. Or something like chopping something on chopping board. Just like that got a little close. Let me see. Like I don't really know. Like you'd know if you're cut. Like, well, it takes at least a heartbeat to like figure it out. All right. Well, once again, we figured out how to fix the world. Yeah, science. Yeah. We did it all.
Today we figured out science. Perfect.
Yep. I think we are going into an international series coming up. We have Troy Montgomery next Thursday calling in from New Zealand, from the South Island of New Zealand. And then the next one after that will be Troy Von Balthazar from the band Chokebore calling in from France.
Oh, man.
France.
Wow.
Yeah.
You finally made it.
I don't know if I have 2 more enough to really do a full month of it, but at least I could say, we're on some kind of international, international series, but that'd be a fun one to think about in the future, like European Vacation. Holiday road. They just interview a bunch of European people, if nothing else.
Yeah, the Euro edition. I love it.
It just involves a lot of late nights for me having to coordinate recordings because the time difference is a lot. But
you need to get some of the sponsors to pay you to go to Europe. And
I thought you just meant to buy me some coffee. I need like a caffeine sponsor so I could stay up later for these late night records with overseas guests. I'll take that. If you have a good caffeine energy drink or something that's vegan with a lot of caffeine that you think would help me stay up more and not forget to put the to record over the weekend so we could have this up Sunday morning. It's a plea for caffeine sponsors.
Sponsored by Vegan Monster Energy Drink.
Yes. Do you have some strange vegan bull semen caffeine concoction?
Yeah.
Send it my way, please.
Not if it's bull semen. Can't be.
But synthetic
vegan.
Bull semen.
Okay, got it. Of course.
They got to find a way they can synthesize that in the laboratory.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, just shoot it into your eyeball. It'll be great.
That's the way you have to do it.
All right. Well, I'll see everybody on Thursday, and we'll be back here next Monday, probably on time, I bet.
Yeah. This is on time. You get to you're running the clock, Randy. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Who cares?
You're your own man.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. What are you guys telling me to put the episode out whenever it's supposed to normally come out all the time, man? I'll work for you.
Yeah, man. You don't tell me what to do.
You're not my boss. You're not the boss of me. All right. Bye.
All right. See ya.